Good morning and welcome to BBOC Live, presented by BetMGM. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and this is the Saturday Conference Tournament College Basketball Betting Preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me for today's show, Mike Randall, Mike Calabrese, and Greg Waddell. A lot to get to today. We'll each give out our two best bets, get the two marquee matchups, including UConn, Marquette, Houston, Iowa State. We'll even build out a moneyline underdog parlay. 14 plus hours of sweating again. We're starting in just under a half hour with the America East Championship. Should be one hell of a day. Bubble teams everywhere rooting for Colorado and FAU. Before we dive in, I do want to remind everyone to make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And also, as I previously mentioned, BBOC is presented by North Carolina's newest sportsbook, BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, before we jump in here, Greg, are you now the president of your namesake, the Greg Gard fan club? You come
Listen,
around?
he looked me dead in the eye, Stuck, and he made me a fool. He painted on clown makeup on my face in back-to-back days, and I have no choice but to bend the knee. I have no choice but to respect him. More on that later in this show. But yeah, I'm wildly impressed. This looks like a completely different Badgers team than I've seen for 3 months.
Randall, you were at the Big East tournament yesterday. How was that?
Oh, it was incredible. And UConn, juggernaut. How about Shaka doing this without Tyler Kolek, Cam Jones? John Fanta asked Cam Jones, what was your reaction when you weren't on any of the Big East postseason teams? Won't repeat what he said, but he's on a mission. Today's going to be tough, but it was a great experience. It was incredible all around. Danny Hurley, his father over his shoulder, like this is a WWE tag team event. That's incredible.
Yeah, UConn juggernaut. They just never miss, it seems. Get down by 10 and then you blink and now they're up by 5. But fortunately for me, the Johnnies did shout out to Jenkins for getting them in that number at the end. Calabrese, one game you're looking forward to most today?
St. Joe's. It is finally a meaningful game as a St. Joe's fan. It has been a long time lost in the wilderness, and now all of a sudden Billy Lang is pushing all the right buttons. Eric Reynolds is pulling, a Walter Reed and just like coming in and helping this team, putting the team on his back. So I don't know. The A10 is a conference that I follow very closely. I had a slight feeling that there might be some craziness and that the winner could come out of that Richmond-St. Joe's matchup. So we'll see if they can take it all the way.
Yep, there will be a bib thief in the A10 with all of the top seeds going down. But let's jump right into our first best bets. I'll kick things off. I'm going to go with Fairfield here. I like this matchup for the Stags. Two teams that do force a lot of turnovers, but Fairfield much better at taking care of the ball. I trust the much better backcourt in this matchup. Now, Washington and for St. Peter's do have an advantage on the inside and on the offensive glass, but Yetna, they just got him back for the season, I think 10 or 11 games ago, Alexis Yetna, he's helped not only for interior defense, but on the defensive glass. So and by the way, Yetna, who in 2017 redshirted for USF, also had another medical redshirt, a COVID year, and was injured another season. He played at Seton Hall, South Florida. This is his 7th season. He's 26 years old. He has one more year of eligibility left. He could come back next year, but he's helped in the interior for Fairfield. Give me the better backcourt that can take care of the ball better. Look, Fairfield will pressure you, and St. Peter's just been miserable turning the ball over and against the press all season. I think that's the difference. I like the Stags. Randall, who are you going with, brother?
Yeah, let's keep doubting South Florida. Well, let's just keep doing it, folks. These are my people, the Florida Atlantic, the South Florida people of the world. I am going here with South Florida in this matchup, only 1.5 against UAB. South Florida, guys, lost one game from December 2nd until the game at Tulsa. They lost the regular season game at Tulsa. They didn't need it for the regular season conference, but everybody's like, oh, they lost to Tulsa. That's it. Guys, they were terrible from three-point range in that game. They were 4 of 23. That's 17%. This is a team that is elite from three-point range, 36%, 38% within the conference. The big key here, UAB, third worst at turnover percentage within the conference. South Florida is a buzzsaw. Youngblood's fantastic. Selton Miguel, shout out to the 80s. Vinny Johnson, the microwave for the Pistons coming off the bench. Pryor's great inside. Number one defensive metrics across the board in the conference. Amir Abdul-Rahim, fantastic coach. They're covering. They're going to the finals. I'm on South Florida. People keep waiting for them. You waited for the Owls last year also. And what happened? I'm on the Bulls here. South Florida gets it done. Low spread. I'm going to lay it.
Hey, Randall, real quick, 100-1 to take USF today to make the Final Four. Do you see 6 more wins in their future?
Why not us? Why not now, Mike? That's it.
The market, by the way, hates South Florida, but
Yes.
they seemingly cover more times than not. Money coming, it looks like money coming in on UAB once again. Greg, where are you headed for your first best bet?
I'm going to go to one of the teams that I think is really hot right now. It's the Gators. They're top 20 in the country per Torvik since the last time they played Texas A&M. If you remember what happened in that game, Florida was up 13, led for most of it. It looked like the much better team kind of melted down in the second half, lose by a point. This is a revenge game, obviously, for that reason, but I just think they're significantly better across the board than A&M. And A&M's getting a lot of credit for what they did to Kentucky, but we talked about it in the preview. There's a reason to like A&M in that matchup. They could beat them up on the boards. Florida, pretty damn good on the boards. Like they're not going to not rebound in this game, right? They're going to go out and do what A&M does and get offensive rebounds and pose a little bit more of resistance to them on the defensive side. And Wade Taylor, I have my eyes on him here because he was great, but every single time this season that he's had 30 points in a game, he's followed it up with a stinker. You can go through the game logs. He just hasn't been consistent enough. I don't think that he can do that again in this game. He was stellar against Kentucky. They're going to need him to be stellar today. If they get the Wade Taylor that showed up 75% of the time this season, I like Florida to roll and continue their run in this SEC tournament.
They just got to hope big game Wade doesn't show up. He has been incredible throughout his career against, top 25 teams in big spots, almost puts up, seemingly puts up 30 plus in every one of those games, but will definitely be a tougher task against Florida than it was against that sieve of a Kentucky defense. Calabrese, where you headed for your first best bet?
I'm shocked the Cornhuskers are catching 4.5 in this game against Illinois. So I'm going to go ahead and take the points because their offense hit a 5th gear against Indiana. We're officially now in the territory where we need to talk about the Cornhuskers being a serious threat to make a run to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And I understand the name brand element of it. The Cornhuskers have never made it to the second weekend, so people just view them as this, team that's going to turn into a pumpkin as soon as March rolls around. They haven't. It's been the opposite. Their defense has been elite, second in Torvik since February 1st. And in their last matchup with Illinois, they played them to a draw in regulation on the road. This morning, it's my youngest 3rd birthday, so I spent most of the morning setting up a bouncy castle. And I'll tell you this, those kids are going to be more comfortable with contact than the front court for Illinois. And just like the end of the party where there's giveaways and there's goodie bags for everybody, you get in the lane, the Illinois front court gives you a bucket. So everybody gets to eat in this game. Everybody gets to go home happy. I don't understand why the Cornhuskers are a dog in this one. I'll go ahead and take the hot hand against an Illinois team that, they were lucky to beat Ohio State, if we're being honest. So it's kind of strange. Usually there's recency bias built into conference tournament time where there's an overreaction by the market, but the Cornhuskers continue to be undervalued, so I'll take them.
Yeah, Illinois got an extremely beneficial whistle in that game. I like Nebraska here too, and hopefully they can win outright for a future that I have. But Cornhuskers can do an effective job in transition defense. That's super important against Illinois. It was just so deadly there. Nebraska's playing extremely well. Since February 1st, top 10 in overall adjusted efficiency. Illinois is around 15, 16. The biggest difference is the defense. Nebraska's top 3, Illinois is sitting around 150 in the country.
And
So I think
Illinois'
they'll-
effective field goal percentage defense since February 1st, 252nd. So it's incredible how far that they've fallen and just not been able to do anything schematically to make things better on the defensive end. So they are with who they are at this point in the season.
Yeah, a lot of holes on that end of the floor, even though they do have an explosive offense. Just can't. I don't think they can get enough stops to cover this number unless Nebraska is just ice cold. All right, let's move on to our first marquee matchup of the day. We are going to head to Big 12 country and talk a little Iowa State, Houston. Houston sitting around a 5.5 point favorite here. These teams split in the regular season. I like Iowa State here. I just like taking the points. You can get 5.5 out there. Super low scoring game. Points are going to be at a premium. Got a very low total here. Both of these teams, elite national defenses, offenses that can go through droughts. Also, for what it's worth, Hilton South, Iowa State will have the home crowd advantage here. But Houston, I don't know if they're going to be fully healthy. Juwan Roberts, who's super important, especially with Tugler already out. I don't know if he's going to suit up. As someone with a Houston future, I hope he doesn't. I just want Houston to be healthy for next week. We saw last year with Sasser and Shed after their conference tournament in the AAC, they were kind of never fully healthy again. I think it ended up burning them. Roberts banged up yesterday. Not sure if he's going to go. That's huge. I think this is just an ugly, low-scoring game, points at a premium. I'll take the dog in Hilton South. Randall, what do you see here?
Yeah, Iowa State with their defensive pressure have been able to turn over Houston. And that's the matchup, guys. When you see the teams like Virginia and these slow teams, the way that you beat them is you roll up your sleeves, you get tough, and you battle with them. You don't want to have a style of going up and down the floor because unless you're with Kansas at home where they're scalding hot in the first quarter, that's not going to work against Houston. Everything you said stuck. No Tugler, no Arsenault. Now Roberts may be banged up. Yes, I understand Iowa State was scalding hot from 3-point range yesterday, but they can just be decent today. I think they can keep this game close. Beat them at home, covered on the road. Yes, it was a last-minute cover, but still, they have taken Houston's best punch, and they're still standing. Will gladly take the points in this matchup for all the reasons you said. Shorthanded, defensive turnover pressure. Iowa State not great from the free throw line. Neither is Houston. I'll take the points in Iowa State.
Yeah, you mentioned Iowa State. As obviously enormous 3-point regret variance worked in their favor against Baylor on both ends, but you could say it's the same for Houston,
right,
who was red hot from 3, and TCU was, 2 of 20 from deep. Also, I just hope we get a close game. The Big 12 tournament has been an absolute dud. The last, I think there's 10 games. The average margin of victory has been 14.5 points. The last 7, actually might be more than that. 4-2. Yeah, the last 7 have all been decided by double digits. Can we just get a close game? I mean, I haven't had the urge to even follow closely at the end of any game this entire tournament. Greg, what are you seeing here?
I got to be honest, guys. I'm right there with you. I'm on Iowa State, but if Roberts is out, I capped this closer to pick 'em. Like, I think there's serious value here on Iowa State. And the biggest thing for me, this Cyclones team will be comfortable in the mud. I've talked about it with Houston. Like, they are so disruptive defensively that it makes teams not just uncomfortable and frustrated, but it's like mentally they start to give up after 10, 15 minutes of having to deal with the ball pressure. Iowa State, their offense has struggled for a while now, and they've been winning games. Like, they're used to winning games without being able to score. They're not going to get frustrated. They're 7-2 in their last 9, and they're ranked 132nd offensively in the country. That's been last in the Big 12. I get that it sounds backward for me to be saying, well, the offensive issues are the reason I'm taking Iowa State, but I really think there's something mentally there that, if this is a 4-0 ball game 5 minutes into the game, they're not scared of that. We saw that the first time they played Houston. When they didn't score for the first 10 minutes, then they were right there late. And look, if Houston is shorthanded, the pressure goes to their secondary guys like LJ Cryer. Cryer has been horrendous in 2 matchups against Iowa State this year. He's 4 for 19 from the floor in those 2 games combined for just 13 points. I think the value's on the underdog here. I won't be surprised at all if they win this game, but I think you got to take the points.
The Greg continues his Houston disrespect tour. I can't wait until we get a Final Four matchup of Houston against Wisconsin and you lose your mind. Calabrese, I know that you're passing here, but anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would probably play Houston here if they were dealing with a full deck, but they're not. And there's the potential for, players to exit this game and just, play 5 or 6 minutes, get banged up a little bit. And for Samson, as you pointed out, the lessons from last year, not pushing the envelope and thinking big picture. So that's why I have my money on the sideline with Houston. When it comes to Iowa State, I understand their ability to win in kind of a rock fight, in a grinded out half court game, but I can't get the image of Lipsy just being locked up by Jamal Shed out of my mind. The last game that he played was a nightmare for him. The boogeyman checks under his bed for Jamal Shed. Evan Meyer ranks him as the #1 on-ball defender in the whole country, and it passes the eye test. The guy is relentless. He creates so many deflections and turnovers, so it's difficult for me, even with the 5.5, to pull the trigger on Iowa State if Lipsy is just in a straitjacket for 40 minutes.
All right, should be a fun one. Well, I should not say it should be a fun one. We hope it's a fun one. Hope it's the first fun one in the Big 12 tournament. But can't wait to watch that one. Two just fantastic defensive teams. But let's shift gears and move on to our Moneyline Underdog parlay. I'll kick things off. Very simple logic here. I'm going with St. Joe's. Hopefully the Hawk truly never dies, or at least today doesn't die. It's just a high variance game, which is what I'm looking for with Moneyline Underdogs. St. Joe's takes a ton of threes. Their compact defense allows a ton of threes. VCU shoots a ton of threes. They also play slow. So there's a lot of high variance in this game. And St. Joe's will have the best player on the court. So give me the Hawks. Randall, who are you going with here?
One of the biggest enigmas that you can possibly have in college basketball has had Chad Venning, the St. Bonaventure center, who is 6'10", 260 pounds. Guys, had a whopping 1 rebound in 37 minutes against LaSalle and Loyola Chicago. Now, why is that relevant when I'm taking St. Bonaventure? Because Mark Schmidt is a brilliant coach. And what he finally realized is that he needs to bring Noel Brown, the 6'10" kid who's transferred from George Washington, onto the floor more. What Venning was doing, he has a tremendous touch on offense, Venning. He makes his free throws. Saw that against UMass in person. But what he struggles with is he's hedging hards on screen and roll, and he is not fast enough to recover. So he was getting killed on screen and roll over and over again. They bring Brown in with his length and his athleticism, and it has changed the game. Brown in the last 2 games, 11-4, 13-5, had 2 blocks in the last game as well. As long as St. Bonaventure gets that production, Venning does a little bit of scoring, and then you end up on the other side, Brown doing the heavy lifting. I expect the 3-point shooting of St. Bonaventure to come around against Duquesne, who can have a lot of variance, turns the ball over, can be up and down. I'm not great picking with Duquesne back and forth, but I was on them against Dayton, and I'm off of them here. I am taking St. Bonaventure. I think their 3-point shooting is hot today. I think the combination of Brown and Venning has made them harder to guard and harder to scheme for, and Schmidt is a brilliant coach. I think the Bonnies today, as a slight underdog, get it done.
Yeah, pretty odd to be talking about a St. Bonaventure's bench player.
Yes.
So for a team that hasn't been known for their bench and their lack of depth in recent seasons. Greg, where are you going here for your money on Underdog?
I'm tailing Calabrese, and he hit the big reasons why you should love the Cornhuskers today. But since February 16th, this is the 4th best team in the country in the last month in college basketball. It's crazy. They took Illinois to overtime, as you mentioned, lost by 3 in that game. It was a total toss-up. They had good Quincy Guerrier back then for Illinois. He's not the same player that he was from January to February anymore. I'm going to give you some reasons to sell Illinois here, though, more than to buy Nebraska, since you guys already covered the bases there. This Illinois team continues to have big key moments late in the season where Brad Underwood is benching their starters due to effort concerns. We had to see that with 10 minutes left in the game against Ohio State. He brought in Nico Moretti and Dane Danger to save the season. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, who's been DNP coaches' decisions left and right through conference play. That's not great. Marcus Damask was awful yesterday for Illinois. I really believe this team is just a go out and try and outscore you team, and that's fine. Until you run into a team like Nebraska with Kisei Tominaga just pouring in threes from NBA range. Rank Mast, a big who can destroy these guys. He was stellar in the first matchup. And I think mentally, guys, there is something here. This is the second game of the Big Ten tournament today. We will know by the time this game tips off if Purdue's in the championship. I expect that Purdue likely will, but we'll see. You never know. Wisconsin's playing great. If Purdue is in the title game, I think Nebraska wants a revenge, or not revenge, but a second chance to do what they did the first time. They smoked them. They blew Purdue out. It's the only team to do that this season. I don't think Illinois is built for Purdue. They've folded under pressure both times they've seen them. They can say they want it. I don't think they do. I'm going to take Nebraska. Plus 150 feels fantastic.
Yeah, Nebraska's defense is playing at elite level. And for what it's worth, we have the bracket. And by the way, we'll have a bracket release show 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Make sure you check that out. We will tweet out the link there. But this is for when you're filling out your bracket, historically, you're looking for teams that make a deep run. These elite offenses with bad defenses hardly ever make deep runs. So looking at you, Alabama, looking at you, sadly for me, Kentucky, and looking at you, Illinois. Calabrese, where you headed?
I'm going to go to the Mountain West final. I'll take New Mexico plus 115 as a slight dog. They continue to have one of the best starting fives in the entire country, and they're finally putting it together at the right time. 4-1 in their last 5. Their only loss, a 2-point loss to Utah State. That was a game that was a coin flip. And really, it's coming down to Jalen House, Evan Maya's top-rated mid-major player in the country. He always had March hero potential, but he's living up to it. He had 29 in the win over Boise, 8 assists last night in the blowout of Colorado State. And they're up against a San Diego State offense that, in my opinion, is so reliant on Ledee to play at a very high level because they're 215th in effective field goal percentage since January 1st. And in their 2 matchups, he had 1 good game and 1 bad game. Nelly Jr. Joseph got in foul trouble in the game that he went off. If he can stay on the floor and out of foul trouble, I think the Lobos are a live dog here. I think they're going to win this one, and they're going to be surging at the right time headed into the big dance.
Yeah, New Mexico maybe still in the bubble. Some say they're already in. The bubble, by the way, historic performance for teams on the bubble. Everyone keeps winning. The committee is going to have a brutal job tomorrow night, and there's 2 bids that could be stolen still. So all the bubble teams out there rooting for FAU and Colorado. Every year, by the way, almost every year, we see a team that gets in that no one expected, or a team that is out that no one expects. Randall, I saw you tweet out that you think Providence gets in. I disagree. I just think the committee, all these teams are winning. They're just going to say, look, Hopkins is hurt, and they can use that as an excuse. They're going to be looking for reasons. You got to find a reason to keep some of these teams out with everyone winning. My hot take, maybe a team that I hope Virginia's out. I think they're going to be out, but a team that no one expects that might be out, maybe Oklahoma. I'll throw that out there. Greg, do you have any hot takes on a team that you think might be surprisingly in or out?
I'd keep an eye on Michigan State, guys. They had 4 quad 1 wins 2 days ago. It might be down to 2 right now because Indiana State dropped and Maryland is dropping as well. There's one right on the cut line, and 3 teams in the net ranked 31, 32, 33 are still playing today. If they get a couple more wins, all of a sudden you look at that resume. They're 2-9 in quad 1 games. They're in the next 4 in right now, the last team, so 5 spots away from the cut line. Keep an eye on the Spartans.
Stuck, I'll counter this on Providence. I think the teams historically that don't get in the tournament have bad losses. Providence doesn't have any. They're 12-0 against quad 3, quad 4, and they have 6 quad 1 wins. 57 in the net is okay. 32 strength of schedule is good. I think that's why they sneak in. I think teams on the bubble that have bad losses are the ones that are in trouble. We'll see tomorrow, but I do think Providence is in. Give them the first 4 game. I'm fine with that.
I get it. But you can just have that Hopkins injury as a crutch, but you
Yes.
make a good point.
Right.
Well, by the way, we'll see if we get there is potential for Patino first 4 matchup with St. John's and New Mexico. Calabrese, do you have any hot takes of a team that could be surprisingly in or out?
I'm just hoping Virginia's out. It's not a hot take. It's just on my wish list. I do not want to see these broken down offenses in March Madness, particularly with some teams that have really high ceilings that are right there on the bubble. We've talked at length about teams like Colorado, St. John's. Like, these are teams that can make it to the second weekend. That's who I want to see sneak into the tournament, as opposed to a Virginia team that, drops 43 points in a first round loss. Pass on that.
Mike,
Doug, can I get a foul up 3 check, guys, by the way? Like, what is Virginia doing last night? Insane.
That was
Fouls the
unbelievable.
give.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Mike, I got crushed by Virginia fans beginning of the year because I was down on them. They said we have 2 lottery picks. Where are they? 2 lottery picks? Do you have 1 lottery? Get out of here. Ryan Dunn and Reese Speakman lottery picks, maybe at the 7-Eleven. Enough.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
in the Baltics. I don't know. There's some European leagues that are looking to replenish and rebuild. So
I think that they are like potential, some 3-and-D, and then they might get drafted, but lottery picks reach, in my opinion. All right, let's move on to the second marquee matchup of the day. We're going to head to the Garden for the Big East Championship between UConn and Marquette. UConn, pretty sizable favorite here. I like the Huskies a lot. They've had this game circled for a whole year. Marquette beat them in the semis last year in the Big East tournament and then chirped them. We're chirping, we're talking shit. And UConn went on to win the national title, but I still think they want to add a Big East title. UConn just playing at an extremely high level right now. Maybe Tyler Kolek goes. I don't think he will. And if he does, I think that is extremely dumb for Marquette. Why risk, aggravating his oblique injury ahead of the NCAA tournament? And this team is just not the same without him. Yes, they did escape Villanova in overtime. Yes, they beat a just gassed Providence team, but this is a different task. This UConn team is playing extremely well. Marquette, like you have a guy like Ogadar who's, what did he play? 80 minutes over the past 2 games. I think this is all UConn. They want to make a statement, and they're not going to let up like they did at Marquette when they just tried to run out the clock, and Marquette got back into that game, but UConn was comfortably ahead the entire way. Randall, what are you seeing here?
UConn by 50. I would seriously lay 15 points in this game, guys. You hit all the salient points. The payback spot. Last year, remember, UConn didn't win a regular season title. They finished 3rd because they lost 5 of 6 earlier in the year. Didn't win the Big East tournament. They got payback. They're angry. They want a title. The crowd travels. You heard Patino talk about it. They had the Kentucky of the East. They've stolen some of our fans. We have to get them back. The 3-point shooting is out of control. In the 2 games they've lost this year in the conference, 7 of 37, 18.9% from 3-point range. If they make threes, it's over. And there's so many guys who can. Law of efforts from Marquette. Shaka, brilliant job. You're in the Big East Finals without Tyler Kolek. Really well done. Enough today. They're going to keep the foot on the gas pedal. 3-point shooting, clinging inside, depth. Forget it. UConn takes it over here. You saw it last year. Xavier lost Fremantle. They made a run. At some point, Stuck, when you lose that player, you're going to start coming back a little bit. Marquette, great job getting to the finals. UConn boat races them today in the Big East Championship.
Love it. Greg, what are you saying?
Did you guys ever watch Mindhunter, the Netflix show? Great show, right?
Sure.
they need to bring it back. That's one of the,
Yeah.
the biggest shames of shows that have ever been canceled.
I would love to get Mindhunter season 3. Anyways, the point is, I feel like this entire game comes down to, can you psychoanalyze Danny Hurley? And I think he's a serial killer. Like, he belongs in Mindhunter season 3. I have no idea. You guys are mentioning it like UConn. They want payback. They want payback. How many times can one team get payback? They've already beat this team twice. They won the regular season championship by like 3 games. I get that there's a banner on the line, but like, I don't know. Every single game, it seems like UConn could be playing like Southeast Missouri State, and then Dan Hurley's 5 rows into the stands trying to get a fan ejected. I have no idea what to do with this team. They're the best team in the country to me. I'd assume they want to win this game by 30, but at the same time, Shaka Smart is great as an underdog. We all know his reputation there. It was a 7-point game the last time these 2 teams played. The line is juiced because we have no idea what's up with Kolek. He's begging to play. He shouldn't play in this game. It's a total stay away for me. I won't be surprised no matter what happens if UConn wins like 50, like Randall said, or if Marquette's suddenly in a 1-possession game with a minute left. Total stay away.
If I'm Marquette, by the way, do you approach the St. John's fan and pay him to come in Marquette gear and try to troll Hurley the entire game? Maybe get another technical. I don't know. Calabrese, what are you seeing here?
I'll just finish it with this. Hurley, I agree, is a psycho, but he's also a great motivator, particularly when his teams are playing ranked opponents. The Huskies are 14-6 against the closing number against top 25 teams in the past 2 seasons. There's not a team in the entire country that has more covers than that. So essentially it comes down to, does this team feel like they need this win? Yes. Even if it's imaginary, even if they already have the #1 seed in the tournament locked up, it's just what's going on in that locker room. And I don't think there's a team that is at this height of their play that we have a better look into their psyche than this UConn squad because Hurley wears his emotions on his sleeve. So barring an incredible turnaround health-wise for Kolek, and maybe I'll just like wait to see if he does play, give me the first 3 or 4 minutes, see if he has any limitations. Barring an incredible turnaround from a medical perspective, I think UConn's going to roll as well.
All right, one final test to get to. That's our second best bet. Natural transition here for me. Mine is UConn. Already talked about it. I like the Huskies, and I don't think Kolek's going to play. If he does, line comes down. Might add some more to UConn depending on where it goes. Randall, your second and final best bet?
Yeah, I'm a Cornell man. I think Cornell's the best team in the Ivy. I've watched them all year long. Love their offense inside the arc, which is brilliant. Number 1 in the country, 62.6% inside the arc. They play with pace. They shoot the three. The only issue that I'm worried about here is, of course, Danny Wolf, who's been fantastic for Yale. But Danny Wolf here at a neutral site of Columbia, not as worried about him as well. He's the key. He's had a double-double in their win. Cornell split with Yale. I like Cornell here. I think they force turnovers, hit some threes. I think the best team in the Ivy. I think they're going to the dance, and I think it starts today with a win over Yale. I'm getting 2 points, and I love it.
Big Red Randall going with Cornell. Greg, you've been fading Wisconsin relentlessly the last couple of days, and they've completely flipped you. You like the Badgers today?
Greg Gard has ruined my week. That's what it is, gentlemen. But I'm not too big of a person to not admit my mistakes, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. In fact, gentlemen, I'd like to give a little gift to Gregory Gard. I'd like to give him his flowers for what he's done this week. The Badgers are a much different team than they've been all season long. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. They're pouring in threes. They haven't done that. They were horrible. I digress. Purdue, here's the thing. This team already hasn't been blowing people out. And I know we have them right with UConn and Houston. They belong there. The resume is the most impressive resume in the country over the full course of the season. With that said, 5 straight wins by single digits. The Big Ten is not a great conference, but they're not blowing teams out. Braden Smith's injury was bad yesterday. It did not look good. He went to the locker room. He missed about 10 minutes. He comes back into the game. Give him credit. That kid is tough as nails. But man, like to hyperextend your knee and then just be back on the floor in a meaningless game against Michigan State. You already have a 1 seed locked up. He looked horrible when he was back in the game. He says he's going to tough it out. I think that would be a mistake. I think if he does tough it out in 5 minutes in, he looks like he did yesterday, Payne's going to pull him. With that hanging over this game and the way Wisconsin's shooting the basketball, I think you have to take the points here. And just for the record here with Wisconsin in their history with Purdue, Purdue has not beaten this Badger program by more than 8 points in their last 7 games. This has been the best 3-year run of Matt Painter's career. It's always close games. Take the points with the Badgers.
All right, stubborn Greg has reversed course, and now he's taking Wisconsin. So you know what to do. That means it's time to lay it with Purdue. Just best with you. Calabrese, you want to close this out here?
Grand Canyon laying 6.5. They catch a huge break by not drawing Tarleton in the title game. That was the one team left in the WAC that I think that could give the Antelopes trouble. They go up against the Seattle team in the semis, and they're able to cover that game. That's their 4th straight cover. They've elevated their play on the defensive end. And you got to remember, this is a team that flirted with a top 25 ranking just about all season long. They're up to 21st in Torvik in March. And when you look at Evan Maya's defensive metrics, they're top 45 in the country, and they do it with continuity. 31 of 32 games this year, the same exact starting 5 for Bryce Drew. Drew, by the way, I think he's now made up for his stint at Vanderbilt. This guy needs to have a Power 5 job again. What he's done out in the desert has been incredible. Grand Canyon wins. This is a coronation. I see them winning by double digits over UT Arlington.
I will correct you on one thing. I don't think they got a break by getting UT Arlington. Fun game that went till
they are the hottest team in the WAC. I absolutely agree, but I think
yes, but they would if they got Tarleton, they would have already been in the tournament. They would have because Tarleton's not eligible, so they would be in no matter what. So they didn't get a break in that sense. They have to actually win this game where they wouldn't against Tarleton. But matchup wise, I think you make a good point. UT Arlington, super fun team playing really well though. But you make some good points. We'll see how that one plays out. I think that's super late night tip, right? Isn't it going to tip around
11:30 maybe? I'll take a look
close
here.
to midnight. That'll go till 2 a.m. So we have what 14 hours of action that probably already tipped, but that'll do it for us. Thank you to Greg, Mike, and Mike for joining me. Thanks to our producers on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you. Before we get out of here, a couple final reminders. Make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And also, BBOC is presented by North Carolina's newest sportsbook, BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Already mentioned it. Bracket release show tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Podcast after that, which will be out by Monday morning. A lot more content coming out throughout the week, including more live shows on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Enjoy the madness. Good luck on any pending futures you have and all of your bets throughout the month. We will see you tomorrow night. Cheers.